I want to have one more discussion about the importance of this reality inside of the Holy Trinity called perichoresis, how each of the persons are fully present and fully in and received by the others, that the full totality of the Father is in and present in the Son. And then the Son receives the full totality of the Father and gives the full totality of himself and is always in and present to the Father. And they embrace each other and they're fully self-giving of the other all the time. And this movement, the Bible calls love. This is the divine life of the Holy Trinity. Why is that so important? And and I want to talk about something that may seem a little esoteric. So please follow me. It is, philosophers have talked about that in all of life, that the most fundamental philosophical problem is the problem of how do you relate the one to the many. It's a deep epistemological problem. But I don't want to relate it to the question. There is a deep problem of the one and the many that I don't want to talk about primarily as philosophical and epistemological. I want to talk about this deep problem in the modern world today of identity. Identity is deeply a problem today. Who am I? What am I? I don't even know. And then the who am I? Is it good? Does it have substance? Does it have worth? Um, is this who, this what, this identity of mine, does it have value? All right. And so this is a problem of the one and the many. I don't know if you thought about this. So let me see if I can help you try to have some feel for this thing. So this question of who are you and why do you even matter? So on one hand, we always want to say there's one unique me and there's no other person like me. And the uniqueness of me is partially why I'm valuable, because there's no one else like me. But so what if there's nobody else like you? If there's nobody else like you, why do you matter at all? The world is filled with, let's say, 7 billion other ones. And so there's 7 billion ones. And so if some of them die or gone or are forgotten, does it matter? You're just a bunch of ones. There's one and one and one and one until you get to 7 billion. And then, okay, they're all kind of unique, but why? Do they have any value? Do they have any worth? Is there something special and good that should be celebrated and wonderfully and cherished about each individual one? And so if you aren't part of some other group that is of the more than one, and then you have a special kind of oneness. So my name is SooSang Park, and you could just say I'm one special me, and like I don't really care with anybody. But honestly, if that's how you think, that you think you can in the modern world today, everybody thinks that your identity can be shaped by the self. We don't believe that there is a God, or we're not sure if there is a God. We don't think that other people get to define who you are and shape who you are. So that really the most important one who can shape you is you. And so we tend to think that we have to decide who our identity is. We have to make ourselves. But we always know that in some really important way, the who am I, my identity, it's incomplete. And am I, it's kind of up for grabs. And whether it's good or not, we're not sure. And so what's often is the way the classic way that you get your identity is that you're part of some other grouping of many's. They call themselves a special kind of one, and that special one has a name or some value in it. And then because we're part of that, that we're part of a many that is one together, then we receive, we receive worth from them. So just for example, maybe my identity is as I'm part of the Parks. That's my family. And so inside the family, we celebrate who we are. We have stories of who we are, and we have a special love and a belonging. And so when I get together with the Park Juniors, they say, you're one of us. There's the many of us that get together, and we form a new kind of one, a oneness, and you're part of our oneness. You're not just a one by yourself, you're part of our oneness, and that's who you are. That's your identity. And you're important. You're important to us. And so that's the classic way. And sometimes maybe if you don't like your family, or what if you're an orphan, you don't even know who you are, then maybe another way is just like I'm part of we form some other So like I'm part of this team. Like maybe it's I'm an American, the many that become a one. Or maybe you can say I'm a pastor, which gives me is like, since I'm a pastor, it's like all the pastors, what we do is very, very valuable. And so this part of the many of the pastors, all the many ones that are defined as a pastor, now they get to be part of a special kind of oneness called pastor. And then that, confers on us some kind of special worth and it's part of my identity. Now, let me take this back to this question of perichoresis. We have this great fear and this insecurity that if we give ourselves to some other grouping of many, and then we want to join and be a part of their oneness shapes us and makes us, that somehow that that we can lose ourselves. There's supposed to be some special individuality, some special unique oneness in me. And if I go in there and then I let them, what if they're more powerful than me? What if they demand things of me? What if they obligate me in certain kinds of ways? And then I have to like give in to them at some point. That will it be oppressive? Will I lose out? In other, like for instance, in other Eastern worldview philosophies, say in Hinduism or Buddhism, and not even just even those, but others, there's this idea that somehow we're always alienated and from not where we belong. And that all throughout our life, we're looking for the place where we really truly belong. And otherwise, we're always kind of homeless and lost. And you can kind of just feel this. And we're always trying to earn our own keep. And so one of the views in certain Eastern visions is that like life is always tragedy, it's always alienation. That you live this life and then you will die and then you'll be reincarnated and then you'll die. And every life you're trying to get to some ultimate place where you'll come to the ultimate oneness. And so what they say is ultimate reality is one. And that you always trying to just hold on to your individuality is actually part of the tragedy. Your small little individuality is always saying that it's me, I'm me. That's actually part of why you're so insecure. And but really what you need to do is you need to let go of yourself and you just become one with like the universe. And there's this view that somehow that if everything, this tragedy will finally end, that you're like a drop. You're like a drop of water. And one day that drop of water will end up going back into the ocean. And then now you'll be complete with the one. And you know what? It sounds so good. But you know what it also means? That individual drop is gone. As soon as a drop of water is put into the ocean, the drop is gone. It's like there's no more individual left. And so deep down, we know that there's some special individual in me that we call a person. And that person has special, enduring, eternal worth. And yet, inside, we're so naked and we feel like we don't know how to fill up this personhood. But in the Holy Trinity of God, do you know the Son of God never worries about who he is? We see this person, Jesus. He walks around. He's the God of the universe. He created all things. But as he's going around saying, I'm the God of the universe, you should just bow down to me. Like I'm important. Don't you see? He never acts like that. In fact, he's born in a wretched place. He's born and his bed is a manger. We sing the song, away in a manger, but the manger is a feeding trough. It's the worst, horrible baby crib of all time. He was so poor and so nothing. He was born of a nothing people. He was born of dirt poor people, and his bed was awful. And he was born in, you can smell the urine and the poo in the stables with the animals. And that's the way he was born. And yet, in no way is he lacking in self-worth. Why? Because his identity isn't something he tries to make. His personhood is utterly secure because you know where it comes from? It comes from a relationship. It comes from the Father. He was never the Son, not the Son. And you know where he doesn't always try to say, hey, I've got to assert myself against my Father. I've got to get out there and make myself, like he made this universe. I'm going to go and make another. No, there's nothing like that. You know where he gets his great deep security and his fullness? From the Father, from the love of the Father. Let me take you to, let's take you back to this incredible passage, John chapter 17. And I want to just show you this one verse, a special place. It says here, John 17, and Jesus praying for all his disciples that they will have this special oneness, which is the perichoresis movement of the three persons that are fully in the other persons. And it says this, verse 22. This is what Jesus, the glory that you have given me, I've given to them. Just stop for a moment. Where did Jesus make his own glory? All his glory is of himself because he is God. But this is really crazy that the one who is completely full and perfect, who's no less God than the Father, the Son, you know where he says he gets the glory? He gets it from his Father. His Father's glory. You know what the Father does? He goes, my Son is like, no, I'm jealous of him. He can't be less as equal God with me. Actually, the Father gives all his glory to the Son. All of his full totality of himself, including his glory, he gives to the Son. And then you know what the Son receives? The Son doesn't clamor after himself. He's not jealous. He's not covetous of the place of the Father as the ultimate head of the Godhead. No, he says, you're my Father, and all your glory you have given me. And then you know what the Son does? Oh, let me just hoard it for myself. No. The Father sends the Son into the world so that the Son could give of that glory to us. Now just stop for a moment. Why don't you think about this? If you have been pastored by me before, you've heard me quote Martin Luther. What is sin? There's a number of different ways. Typically, sin is conceived of as breaking rules, breaking laws. And that's true. You break the law of God and you're a sinner, right? And even non-Christians have some, and they often don't like this. It feels very legalistic and it feels somehow arbitrary. You break this rule, you're bad. But Martin Luther has this description of sin is that inside of the personhood of us is what happened is our soul, when we lost God, we didn't look up at God and then receive all his glory. That God, he said, I'm your Father and I'm going to give you all of my fatherly glory and I'm going to give it to you like my Son. Just as I give it to my Son, my very Son, I'm going to give it to you. That's what God wanted to do. Instead, what happened with sin was that our soul, this is the way Martin Luther curved in on itself. Incurvatus, that's the word in Latin. It's the soul curved in on itself. So instead of looking up and seeing the goodness and glory of the Father and believing our Father that he would give all of himself to us, and then we would receive the fullness of his person into us, and then we would be sons, we'd be daughters, and we receive that out of receive his glory and his love, and then we'd be utterly secure. We'd still be unique as individuals, but still part of a oneness. Instead of doing that way, our soul curved in on itself, and now in the modern way, we're like everything in sin is like our identity has to be built by me. Oh gosh, it's such a horrible curse. Because what if you're not good enough to offer this kind of glory to yourself? What if you never attain any glory? That's why we're so easily enslaved. Oh, you're not pretty enough. So, we have to get out there. Somebody says you're ugly, so you have to like work hard to make yourself beautiful. You have to work hard to make yourself skinny. To make yourself look strong, because you're just not glorious enough. And so the self is lacking. In fact, you even say it to yourself, you're nothing. You're not. And so we're looking for some other set of manys to draw us into their oneness so that we can say we belong, but really God had already given it to us, already wanted to give it to us, and we rejected it. And now we're stuck in the curse of our soul being curved in on itself, always trying to make up our self and make it worth something. But in the perichoresis, in the very life of the Trinity, God says, you will get your identity because you'll receive it. Receive it by grace. That actually the relationship through love and the relationship and the whole giving of the self-giving of God to us, that will be the deepest foundation of who our personhood is. And as we go into it, even if we're different, they'll never be threatening. There can be many, but all their ones will be secure. So perichoresis, this is a clue into the deep problem of the world and how salvation can come from Jesus, coming from the triune God, and heal our deep and profoundly sad and broken condition.